I am Seal and I have been involved with the movement since 2006. I started out as a contributor and soon became admin on the Dutch Wikipedia. Through the years from there on, I was involved in many different roles. I speak Dutch, English, German, and a little bit of French. Today I'm going to tell you about my work on the Papiamento Wikipedia. Papiamento is the native language of the majority of the population on the Dutch Caribbean ABC islands. The language has two variants, Papiamento and Papiamento. In English, these are both commonly referred to as Papiamento. Papiamento is one of the three official languages spoken on the Dutch Caribbean islands, which is a former colony of the Netherlands. The Dutch language has for long been the language of instruction in the lower classes of primary education. Papiamento was the language of the people and has only been formally recognized in 2003 for Aruba and 2007 for Curaçao and Bonaire. In the official sphere, Dutch is still mainly used as the written language, while Papiamento is preferred as the working language. The Papiamento Wikipedia is generally considered one of the largest online resources for the language. Even though the first official spelling and grammar guide was published in 1976, Google Translate, for instance, known and used worldwide, does not know Papiamento yet. A little side note here is that the Wikimedia content translation tool does work for Papiamento because it uses a different translation service called Yandex.
Hey, Cecilia, you can pause for just a moment and start from the stop. You have a few more minutes before they can actually see you.
Sorry.
No, you're okay. So we're gonna put up this slide that says starting soon. And then you'll see the countdown, and then you'll start. Okay. So just hang tight.
Sorry, I thought I did. Okay.
No problem. Hang tight.
Thank you very much for warning me, and I'm so glad I can hear you.
No problem. Coming off.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Let me start by briefly introducing myself first. I am Seal and have been involved with the movement since 2006. I started out as a contributor and soon became admin on the Dutch Wikipedia. Through the years from there on, I was involved in many different roles. I speak Dutch, English, German, and a little bit of French. Today I'm going to tell you about my work on the Papiamento Wikipedia. Papiamento is the native language of the majority of the population on the Dutch Caribbean ABC Islands. The language has two variants, Papiamentu and Papiamento. In English, these are both commonly referred to as Papiamento. Papiamento is one of the three official languages spoken on the Dutch Caribbean Islands, which is a former colony of the Netherlands. The Dutch language has for long been the language of instruction in the lower classes of primary education. Papiamento was a language of the people and has only been formally recognized in 2003 for Aruba and 2007 for Curaçao and Bonaire. In the official sphere, Dutch is still mainly used as the written language, while Papiamento is preferred as the working language. The Papiamento Wikipedia is generally considered one of the largest online repositories for the language, even though the first official spelling and grammar guide was published in 1976. Google Translate, for instance, known and used worldwide, does not know Papiamento yet. A little side note here is that the Wikimedia translation tool does work for Papiamento, because it uses a different translation service called Yandex. The Papiamento Wikipedia was started in 2006, and the admins from that time became less active from about 2010 onwards. One admin stayed around, checking recent changes about every once a week. The main vandalism was taken care of by the small Wiki monitoring team, and there was no real maintenance during those years. In 2018, the project Wiki Goes Caribbean was initiated by the Dutch UNESCO. The project was aimed at improving the available information about the Dutch Caribbean islands on the different Wikipedias and the broader Wikimedia projects. For this project, a working group of interested people was formed, and there were regular edit sessions at the National Archives of the Netherlands in The Hague. In 2019, the project was adopted by Wikimedia Netherlands, and a working visit to the islands was undertaken. During this trip, Wikimedia Netherlands talked to and visited various GLAMs on the islands, and the existing contacts on the University of Curaçao were reinforced. During these visits, the university expressed the wish to do more with the Papiamento Wikipedia. In November 2020, when I was asked to help, the Wikipedia contained articles in several related languages to Papiamento, such as Spanish and Portuguese, and also articles in Dutch and English, the two other official languages. There was, for instance, no public sandbox, no deletion policy, no general help page, and most links to Wikidata were missing. The maintenance reports consisted of long rows of error messages. Since updating the wiki was a request from the participants of the Wikimedia Netherlands working group Wiki Goes Caribbean, together with the University of Curaçao, we were already in contact with a group of interested people. Through this group, some more people joined a first video call I organized. Because Dutch is, as mentioned, also an official language, it was relatively easy for me to communicate and brainstorm with the attendees. A half year into the pandemic, people were sort of getting comfortable with video calling, and it almost seemed as if the Atlantic Ocean between the Caribbean islands and the Netherlands was much less of a barrier to cross than before. People from different time zones came together now to talk at the same time on the same subject. Prior to the call, participants filled in a form in which they could share their knowledge on various subjects. How much experience did they have about editing Wikipedia, contributing to Commons and Wikidata, and also what was their knowledge of programming in general, like HTML, Lua, and Python, and how strong were their skills in written Papiamento. Besides this overview from the questionnaire, I had a list of things that were wanted on the wiki: revising the category tree, creating templates for info boxes, and new admins for the project. People present in the call expressed some additional wishes, such as translating the MediaWiki software into Papimento and also activating this translation possibility for the other variant. Because I knew in advance who might be willing and able to do different tasks, during that first call we were able to already make our arrangements and form small working groups. In the weeks and months afterwards, I frequently contacted the participants to see if they had made headway in whatever they had signed up for, or if there were any problems they were encountering. A small group with more wiki experience started on designing the category tree. They looked into the categories that already existed on the wiki and sought comparison in how category trees in other languages were modeled. From that, they created a new tree and manually checked the more than 2,000 articles on the wiki, gave them a place in the tree, and also did a first check on the language. The wiki already had a policy to respect the variant in which the original author had started the article, and there was a template available to indicate in which variant the article was written. To make translations in both variants possible for Wikidata and to move forward in the translations of the MediaWiki software, I talked to Amir from the Translate Wiki team. Together we looked for more information about the language. How realistic is it to activate both of the variants for MediaWiki and for Wikidata? How many people speak the language? In what language are people taught at school? In what language does the government communicate? Because both variants are closely related, it was important to understand the differences between the languages. For this, we talked to a retired professor and historian of Caribbean literature, Dr. Lutgers, who had previously given a presentation for the Wiki Goes Caribbean working group. We explored the possibilities of how to facilitate two different language varieties in the broader Wikimedia projects, focusing mainly on MediaWiki and Wikidata, since the Papimento Wikipedia already had a guideline in place. Interested users started translating the MediaWiki software, focusing on the critical elements first. I had requested admin rights for the Papimento Wikipedia through Meta. From there on, I started to clean up articles in languages different from Papimento that were found in the process of setting up the category tree, and could start to update the wiki from the MediaWiki side. In the year 2021, 2 users, both speakers of the language, felt comfortable enough to join me as admins. With the 5 pillars of Wikipedia as a guide, we started on the first help page and a short deletion policy based on minimum requirements for articles we had previously discussed in a call. In the second and third video call with interested parties, we went deeper into Wikidata. The property is a was not even translated yet. And in the call, we made a start with translating this and other essential properties, like country, painting, and profession. Working with a Google spreadsheet, we were able to ask students from the university to help us, so that one of our more experienced users could run a bot to fill in the descriptions of the various items. This hugely sped things up. The students of the university translated, among other things, all the countries of the world, a long list of professions, and an even longer list of taxons. Once the bot was running, in the first month and a half, already 100,000 labels and 500,000 descriptions in Papimento were added to the database, with an average of 40,000 descriptions per day. By July 2021, we were approaching 1.5 million Papimento labels and almost 2 million Papimento descriptions. In order to have info boxes from Wikidata, it is important to have the various properties and labels translated into your language. Thanks to this work by Ido de Roo and his bot, we can now show Wikidata generated info boxes on the Papiamento Wikipedia, which for a small wiki are easier to maintain than local info boxes because the data on Wikidata is centrally updated. With these general Wikidata translations in place, we recently also implemented the Wikidata placeholder. If you search on the Papiamento Wikipedia, and we don't have a page on the subject yet, but Wikidata does contain an item by that name, you can choose to see this data on the Wikipedia page. And hey, maybe start your own first Wikipedia article. So to summarize what we've been working on in the past 9 months, we worked on translating the MediaWiki software, we implemented info boxes based on Wikidata, we turned on the Wikidata placeholder, we designed a first deletion policy, and I've been helping new admins to manage a wiki, when and how to make choices, and what considerations to bear in mind. There are still some wishes for the future. Now that the technical infrastructure is up to date again, we would like to motivate more people to write their articles also in Papiamento. Page views show that overall the best visited articles on the Wikipedia are pages that are about local topics. One of the collaborations already in place is with the University of Curaçao, which has decided to include writing for the encyclopedia in Papiamento in the curriculum of the upcoming academic year. A pilot project of this kind last winter was promising, but shows it still requires some extra guidance for the professors who will have to supervise. This component will be taken up by Wikimedia Netherlands in particular because of the good contacts with the university from the working visit to the Dutch Caribbean in 2019. I also hope that with the availability of the language in Wikidata and through increased indexing of search engines of terms in the language, more people will be pointed towards the encyclopedia, so that ultimately more people will want to contribute. In conclusion, for me it was not immediately necessary to know the language, although it is useful if you have knowledge of some languages from the same language family and the language is in a script you understand. By taking on a more coordinating and advisory role and presenting the interested parties and new admins with options and considerations, the new community will be able to set up their Wikipedia according to their own wishes. And hopefully it will be a reboot of an encyclopedia in an underrepresented language. So this is my example of how, in short, you too could help small communities in improving their Wikipedia, even if you do not speak the language. If you would like to offer your help in the same way as I did, please visit the page on Meta for the small wiki toolkits. At the moment there are 2 ongoing initiatives, one with the Kurdish Wikimedians user group and one focusing on South Asia projects. Feel free to express your interest in helping in one of these groups or express your interest and ideas in general on the talk page of the small wiki toolkits. Thank you. Let's see if you have any questions for me. Amir is asking, do you have a list of non-article pages that you had to translate? Apologies, help pages. I think that something like this can be useful in a lot of languages. We don't have a list, actually. We just started on the fly. We started with creating a first help page. Yes, I can look into this, Amir. I can get back to you with this. And Zico is asking, would it be useful if the movement provided a good set of rules and help pages in simple English It is not so long and specific and can easily be translated in other languages. It could be, but like with the category tree, it is. I think it would be nice to have something at hand, but as long as you can fill it